Hello everyone and welcome back to another Mirror Dungeons solo video. Today we'll be channeling the heart of the cards by using the new Hanafuda Ishmael. In general, she's a pretty decent sinking and tremor unit, having good application of both status effects. However, her main gimmick revolves entirely around the discard mechanic. Unlike most other discard identities, Ishmael doesn't simply discard skills whenever she attacks, but instead she only discards skills if it is different to the one she is currently using. This is important because she wants to use skills with the same sin type as many times as she can in quick succession in order to build up her Bright status effect. Bright simply serves as a counter that indicates how powerful her skill 4 will be when she inevitably uses it. The primary way to gain Bright is by using the same skill that matches the current suit she has, which is another status effect that simply dictates what skills you should be using, and the most important part about it is that she gains even more if she used the same skill the turn prior. There are 3 other ways she can gain Bright. First, by using her defense skill, she has a 50% chance to gain 1, while also re-rolling the current suit she has. Most useful in situations where you don't have a matching skill. The second and third ways are quite similar, with her gaining 1 no matter what whenever she uses either her skill 3 or any ego skill, making them both quite useful to use as a last-ditch effort when you run out of time. After 4 turns, Ishmael will use her skill 4 whether or not you've managed to build up enough Bright stacks, and if you haven't, you simply gain the pity prize of 2 attack power up next turn. However, if you do manage to build it up, you gain access to a very powerful attack. For every Bright stack, she gains an extra coin and an extra 10% damage to a max of 5, making it a skill that can very easily nuke even the tankiest of bosses. While building up Bright stacks to gain such a strong attack is somewhat complicated, once you understand how to play around it, it does become quite intuitive. Plus, if you are struggling to build it up, you can always just spam ego skills and guarantee a decent sized Bright stack that way. Anyway, to start the run off, we take these starter buffs and find these ego gifts on the first floor of Dregs of the Manor before making it to the boss against the Dead Rabbits boss.
여러분들 기분이 좋아 보이시네요.
Alright, hello everybody. And welcome back to another video.
당신 짝패군요.
A very cool one. With, what's her name? Hanafuda Ishmael? Yeah, I think that's right. She's very cool. I like her. Like, it feels kind of, interesting to say that I do like her, because, frankly speaking, when I first saw this Walpurgis, I wasn't really that excited for it, and to an extent, that's still the case, you know? Like, I don't really care about these characters very much. I mean, don't get me wrong. Hanafuda and Alan, they're cool characters. I like them. But, you know, it's just, you can't really match the hype of the queen with them, you know? I gotta use an ego. I don't want to, but I have to. The rupture damage is too much otherwise. In any case, what do I want to say? Yeah, it's like Project Moon has been heavily experimenting with this whole, how shall we say, this whole idea of identities that sort of build up a very powerful attack over time. I mean, technically speaking, that's been in the game since launch with, like, charge identities, but yeah, they've been doing it a lot. I mean, this identity, W Corp, Heathcliff, and even She Faust. They all spend a certain amount of turns just building up their status effect to, yeah, get a very powerful attack like that. And Ishmael does it very, very well, as you can see there. We head into Hell's Chicken for the next floor, where we find the manor-shaped music box, Tango Marinade, Finifugality, Emerald Elytra, ornamental horseshoe, and 4-leaf clover before making it to the boss against Papa Bongi.
얌전히 잠들어 있어야 할 놈들까지 눈을 떠버렸나?
You know, the thing about Ishmael's gimmick, right, is that at first glance it does feel kind of,
당신 짝패군요.
a little intimidating, I'd say. Because it does require a lot of, like, RNG, I'd say, in order to actually be able to use her skill 4 at max power. And yes, it is a skill 4, not a skill 3-2. Do not call it that. It is a completely different skill. It has absolutely nothing to do with her skill 3. It's not an empowered one. Don't call it a skill 3-2 because it's a skill 4. I will die on that hill. And ultimately, it's once you actually know how to play around it, right? It's actually not that complicated in order to do it, because the only way to effectively guarantee that you have enough of her bright status effect to be able to, let's say, use it at max power, right, is if you get lucky and have the turn start with her hand being in the wrath, so it's off her skill 1, because the skill 1 is the only one that's consistent enough to be able to do it. Because as you can see, like, we don't have any skills right now, so obviously we can't do anything with it. But it's like, what am I trying to say? It's just a simple numbers problem, really, because the first time you use any skill, it gives her 1 bright, and then if you use the same skill in succession, it then gives you 2 bright, and you need 5 to get the maximum value out of it. So it's like, it's in this situation where it's kind of like impossible to get it at max value unless you're using her skill 1. However, there is one way around it. Like, if you use her skill 2, for example, you don't want to use her skill 3. If you use her skill 3 on turn 1, it's kind of impossible to actually get it to max value, I'd say. But one thing you can do is, if you don't have any skills that, you know, have the same sin type, you can simply use her defense skill to re-roll the deck suite, and in the process that also has a 50% chance to give you an extra bright, which in succession with the fact that you would hopefully get lucky and get the same suite of the hand that you have in the next turn, it's almost guaranteed that you can have the max 5 stack bright. Well, as guaranteed as a 50% chance can be, after all. We head into the Noon of Violet for the next floor, where we find the Mental Corruption boosting gas, Leagued Enkafallen, Hardship, an extra skill 3, Rest, Nebulizer, Faith, Sundered Memory, and the Broken Greatsword before making it to the boss. Okay. What was I saying before in the previous run, or not run, previous floor? I don't really remember. This floor specifically is actually kind of difficult for us. Mostly because the blunt fatality, but also because we have to use an ego turn 1 in order to turn off our blunt weakness. Or not blunt weakness, envy weakness, sorry. But in any case, this floor is actually, like, really, really difficult. Because they just don't do, the Fruit of Understanding don't really do a whole lot of damage, right? And that makes it so that getting staggered a second time is actually very likely, because they rarely do enough damage to stagger you twice in the, like, bring you below your second stagger bar in 1 turn. However, they also like to how shall we say, bring you really close. And yeah, the only saving grace is that they're fatal to sloth damage, so yeah, our skill 2 is very, very effective against them. Otherwise, it would be kind of difficult.
상체를 제압하는 건 우리만으로 충분하잖아.
당신 짝패군요.
Anyway, another, yeah, I think I remember now. So the biggest thing about this identity, right, is that it can be slightly awkward to actually guarantee that you can always use the right sin type for her to get the bright status effect, right? However, the good thing about it, and obviously we're not using that right now, but the good thing about it is that Ishmael does have an ego skill of all 3 of the different types, right? That she can use at the same time. She's got Christmas Nightmare for the He ego. Then she has Capote for the Teth, and either of her Zayn egos are Gloom. So it's like, because of that, you can always guarantee that Ishmael is capable of using a skill of the correct sin type, and also it has the added benefit of making sure that you can, like, using an ego skill has the same effect of using her skill 3, where it guarantees an extra bright on top of the already guaranteed bright that you get for using the correct sin type, right? So using an ego skill is actually very, very beneficial for this identity, because simply having like all 3 of the different types to just sort of check all of your bases, I suppose, is the best way to say it. It's just very effective. Obviously, we're not doing it right now because we don't need to, but it is something that you can do, and is pretty good. We head into Hatred and Despair for the next floor, where we find the Bell of Truth, Devil's Share, Rusty Commemorative Coin, and Cigarette Holder, before making it to the boss against the Knight of Despair.
저거 뭐 하려는 거지? 당신 짝패군요.
I do really like the gimmick of this identity, though. Like, being forced to play into, like, well, you're not technically forced into it, but because even if you don't get like her skill to max power, right, it's still pretty effective. I mean, every bright stack just gives it an extra coin, and also I think coin power as well. So it is very beneficial to get the max 5 out of 5, but if you fall a little short, it's not that bad. 4 out of 4 is still pretty good, you know. You just want to make sure that you're always at least, you always have at least 3. You don't want to use it without that. No, Queenie. How could this happen? There is also like the one little thing that also kind of makes her gimmick a little easier to play around is specifically if you use the discard trick with the fact that you cannot discard defense skills, right? So if you get lucky and have Ishmael's skill 3 in her bottom slot, right? you can then, like, you know, pop the defense skill there, but don't actually use it, and then use her other skill so that it doesn't actually end up discarding the skill 3. And because the skill 3 guarantees an extra bright stack no matter what, you can use it as a sort of like failsafe, where if you're in a situation like this, for example, where you don't have the correct sin type, you can then use that skill 3 and you get an extra bright, and you would be at max 5 out of 5 instead of 4 out of 5 like we are right now. It's nice that, you know, somebody other than just Diechi Honglu can benefit from that, because the other discard identities don't really benefit from that gimmick very much. It's basically only Diechi Honglu, but now Ishmael also kind of benefits from it at least a little bit, so that's nice.
당신 짝패군요.
It's also pretty good for solos that the only skill that matters in terms of her gimmick is the one in the leftmost skill slot. So, like, all of her other skill slots can just, you can use whatever you want, yeah, you know? So that makes it very nice for solos where you don't have to just spam constant skill 1s over and over again. You can use other stuff, which is very, very good. I like that. It also ends up limiting her actual, you know, her build-up, so it's always going to happen at the same turns every single time, which is, it's fine, you know. There's nothing wrong with that.
방금 전에는 굉장했다고. 당신 짝패군요.
Get her, Queenie. Good job. Couldn't have done it without you. Love you.
당신 그래도 자, 악당 퇴치 성공. 오늘도 정말 멋진 활약이었어.
We head into the evil defining for the next floor, where we find Downpour, the Knight's Blessing, Red Order, Resolution, Angel's Cut, Clear Mirror Calm Water, Reverberation, and Melted Spring, before making it to the boss against the Pequod Trio.
저건 아르카나의 스프레드에
당신 짝패군요.
So, I've encountered a bit of a bug involving this identity. It's not really a bug with this identity, but more so an interaction with a few specific support passives. Most notable, the support passives in question being Diechi Song and Merceau. And basically, what it is, the problem is the fact that
당신 짝패군요.
when Ishmael uses her defense skill to discard her skills, right? It doesn't actually activate their passive.
와, 엄청난 공격이었어. 기념할 만한 걸.
And it's like that's weird. It shouldn't happen, because there is no conditional like that. Their support passives literally say just they discard a skill and then gain, whenever they discard a skill they gain shield, right? But as you can see here, because I'm going to be using it, Ishmael will not have any shield when she uses this.
당신 짝패군요.
And it's like, she's already discarded the skills because they discard on combat start, and I think that is inherently the problem with it. Because what I think is happening is, because she discards on combat start, she's discarding the skills before the passives are active for the turn, right?
아무튼
And because of that, it's just, it doesn't work.
당신
Bit of a weird interaction, but it is. It's not that important, but it is something to worth note that does kind of need to be addressed at some point.
사물 앵화
And it's like the only reason this sort of bug hasn't been found like earlier is because all other discard identities discard on skill use. There has never been another combat start discard before, so that's why it hasn't been found before.
기세로 계속
언젠가
나아가보자.
다시 재생하겠지.
We head into the Heartbreaking for the next floor, where we find the Broken Compass, Midwinter Nightmare, Clockwork Spring, Skeletal Crumbs, Dimensional Perception Modifier, Lunar Memory, Guiding Gas Lamp, and the Blue Star Shard, before making it to the boss against Not Heathcliff.
이건
Alright, Heathcliff 1v1, let's go.
이 상황을
This
객실에
is
제압하는 데
probably the harder of the two possible fights here.
당신 짝패군요.
As hard as a fight can be once you have Lunar Memory, that is.
세피라 중 최고의 전투부서. 환상차고
당신
불러야 하는
짝패군요.
그들에게
Honestly, what do I want to talk about right now? There's not really much else to talk about. Like, as complicated as this identity is with her gimmick, once you understand it, it's like,
했구나. 나라도 그랬을 거야.
it's honestly kind of simple.
당신 짝패군요. 앵화
I mean, it's definitely like
공격은 좋았어.
사물
이대로만
a little
계속해서만
awkward at
좋을
times,
텐데.
but
칼날이
ultimately,
잘리면
yeah, it's not that bad. And yeah,
공격이
obviously,
약점이었겠죠?
Lunar Memory, doing Lunar Memory things, completely skipped the entire Envy phase, which is the only difficult part of that fight, so.
내일도
Cool.
꼭 불러주기야.
We head into Time Killing Time for the next floor, where we find the Fragment of Inertia, Refraction Glass Pod, Distant Star, Interlink Time, Emergency Investigator Badge, Etched Clock Hands, Rusted Clock Hands, Silver Watch Case, Eclipse of Scarlet Moths, and Illusory Hunt, before making it to the boss against the Time Ripper.
정보팀에서 준 자료와는 차이가 있지만 당황하지 말고
당신
Alright, time to absolutely wipe the floor with the Time Ripper. Because he would be a little, well, not really difficult, but
충분하잖아.
he would be at least take a little bit longer than normal
긍정적인
if we didn't have
아이디어였어요.
Lunar Memory. But Lunar Memory
들여다봐도 딱 보이네.
disables his slash resistance, so we do full damage into him, which is very cool. It's gonna make this fight very quick. Anyway, I suppose one thing I can talk about is like this identity's relationship with Ishmael's other Tremor sinking identity, because yeah, both her and Muller Boatworks are Tremor and sinking, obviously.
나는 다른 선배들처럼 복잡한 생각을 잘 못하니까 너희도
당신
천천히
짝패군요.
And the thing about that, right, is
방금 어떻게
one might think that because this identity is like so much stronger than her, right? Simply because she just has better raw damage, right? That there's no real point in using Muller Boatworks anymore. However, that's not true, because Muller Boatworks still has something that this identity doesn't have, and that is sinking count.
승리도 시간 문제겠지?
Like, this identity doesn't have a whole lot of sinking count. It's like
룰 위반이죠.
neutral, 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 and then negative. So it's like Yeah, she doesn't build a sinking stack. She can only maintain it, which is fine, you know. There's nothing wrong with that.
당신 짝해군요.
But it does make it so that Molar Boatworks is still a viable identity. Because she just has a ridiculous amount of sinking count and therefore can build a sinking stack much more efficiently than this identity. So it's like, yeah, there's still a use case for her, which is nice. We head into Spring Cultivation for the next floor, where we find the Micro Precision Time Accelerator, Grey Coat, Artistic Sense, another Skill 3, and the Charge Type Gloves, before making it to the boss against Wei. Alright. Really scary fight here with Wei. Wei is, simply put, absolutely terrifying for any solo runs. He is so much that just kind of screw you over. But I believe we do have enough to be able to beat him. Specifically just because we have a lot of damage, and we also have a singular revive ego gift, which is probably necessary. No, it is necessary. Absolutely. Like, look at that. There's no way we survive that otherwise. You need the revive ego gift to beat him. Luckily, I was... Looks like I was worried over nothing, to be honest. We just have way too much damage at this point. But yeah, I did do another run with this character before this video, just to like test them out, see how they worked. And I did pick Wei in that fight, and that fight was a lot more difficult because I took him on like floor 6 or something before I had like half the ego gifts we have right now. Still very scary. We head into Yield My Flesh for the next floor, where we find the Rusted Hilt, Broken Blade, Phantom Pain, and Night Vision Goggles, before making it to the boss against Bamboo-Headed Kim. Alright, Kim, let's see if you have what it takes to put up even a small bit of a fight. He should, with his bleed damage, considering we don't have any anti-bleed right now. But the shield generation from both, the shield generation from the support passive should be enough to offset that. And then we have the revive anyways. Yeah, this this fight is like a guaranteed foregone conclusion, so. As scary as Kim can be, like this late in the mirror dungeon, nothing is really that scary. We head into Refraction Railway Line 4 for the next floor, where we find the Cloud Pattern Gourd Bottle and the Biovenom Vial, before making it to the boss against the King in Binds. Alright, final fight. Decently scary guys here, but not that bad. We're gonna try to beat this without using an ego, because like that's the only way we can even remotely make this a challenge. Obviously, if we just pop an ego, they all get staggered instantly and we win, but we want to use all of the ego gifts that we have, you know? And that includes the revive one. Why would I pick it up if I don't want to use it? You know what I mean? I picked it up for a reason. Of course I'm going to use it.
당신 짝패군요. 사물.
대성공이야. 가론 신나.
But yeah, like
부를까?
if we didn't have that revive ego gift, it would be fine. We just use blind obsession, they all die, we win. That easy.
敵は深手を負っています。
And it's like we can clash against egos and everything. It's
당신
yeah,
짝패군요.
free win. No egos required. What can I say?
약점을 잘 찌른 것
ドク
같네요.
ターのように優れた式ですね。
What else can I talk about? It's a good question.
사물.
Like I've talked about her gimmick, I've talked about how she's with
너희들의 사랑이
how she compares to Molar Boatworks.
저 어둡고 악한
Surely there's something else.
당신 짝패군요. 효과적이네요. 이 방식을 기억하는 게 좋겠어요.
방금 공격은 좋았어.
I don't know, she's just cool.
이대로만 계속해보면 좋을 텐데.
Oh yeah, that's something I wanted to talk about, right.
좋아.
I completely forgot, but like in regards to the also we corroded, I was kind of expecting Ishmael's skill 4 to go into Yisong there, but it didn't. Oh well. But anyways, these identities for Walpurgis, right? They are definitely underwhelming for me.
미카, 저것들 뭔가 복잡한 걸 준비하는 것 같지 않아?
당신
And, you know, when I say they're underwhelming, I'm not referring to, like,
사물.
how strong they are or anything like that. I'm more so referring to the fact that
다른 빛의
these are the identities that got chosen for this Walpurgis because, you know, in my opinion,
완벽한 한방. 시원한
there
걸.
was a much better alternative choice that could have been picked, and that's our corp, you know?
해냈구나. 나라도 그랬을 거야.
사물.
I'll finish this thought in the next floor. Like, I wasn't going to go into extreme mode, but I want to talk about this more, so yeah, we'll do one more floor.
껴놨지만 저것들은
We head into a certain book for the final floor, where we find the UPS system and wrist guards before making it to the boss against the Fairy Festival.
쟤네 고기라도 먹은 것처럼 기운이 솟잖아. 당신.
Alright, so, as I was saying, these identities, both Hanafuda and Alan, right? They're kind of cool because they were teased a little bit, like way early on, all the way back when Kanto 8 Part 1, I think it was, happened. Because they both do show up in that story when Jia Kyu shows them off as, you know, his immortality,
이만하면 순항이죠. 바람도 딱 좋네.
which is pretty nice. I do like that. I do like that they were kind of teased a little bit way early on. But
당신.
for this,
짝패군요.
for pretty much every Walpurgis, to be honest, I feel like there's been a sort of pattern, right, where everyone is sort of based off of the announcer that we got, at least to some minor extent, you know? Like last one was Tifereth's, and we got the Magical Girls because she's the Magical Girls floor in library, right?
우리는
It makes sense.
된것 같아. 교육팀의 직원다운 완벽한 공격이었어.
당신 짝패군요.
But these identities, like,
사물.
they don't have a whole lot to do with Gebura, right?
기념할 만한 걸.
And that's kind of my main issue with them. is just the fact that they're so disconnected from their announcer. And you know, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. There's not a requirement for there to be a connection, but it just, I don't know, it feels wrong to me that we got them instead of R-Corp, because R-Corp is actually connected to R-Corp is actually connected to Gebura, at least to a small amount, because, you know, Miyu is basically a fangirl of hers, right? So it just would have been very fitting for us to get both a Miyu identity and a Nikolai identity. However, the main reason why I think we didn't is specifically because of who would have gotten those identities, right? Obviously we would get Miyu Ryoshu and Nikolai Otis, right? They're the most fitting for those identities.
잘했다는 칭찬 생각하는 게 좋겠지?
한쪽 부위가 완전히 결손되었네요.
And that would leave both Ishmael and Gregor out to dry, because they are some of the few characters that currently do not have a Walpurgis identity. And so because of that, it's like, I feel like it just, Project Moon decided we need to give Ishmael and Gregor identities before we do R-Corp, right? And also, I kind of feel like they're kind of saving R-Corp for, you know, Ryoshu's Kanto as well. Considering, like, Ryoshu will be getting Miyu. That's obvious. Duh.
아무튼 놀라운 한방이에요.
3월 앵화 시원하네. 아술맛을 돋궈주는
And so, you know,
약점을 잘 찌른 것 같네.
we're currently like 2 Walpurgises away from the next one, and I do a... Ryoshu's Kanto will probably be out by then, so... Yeah, I think the next library Walpurgis will probably be R-Corp. It should have been this Walpurgis for R-Corp, but I can see why they decided to hold off on it for now.
상담에서 알려준 대로
있는
잘했어.
힘껏 찔러놓고 웃겨놨지만
상담
저것들은
프로그램을 진행하는
언젠가
건
다시
다른
재생하겠지.
일이야.
도박장째로 의뢰를 냈다 싶더니 이렇게나 밑장 빼는 놈들이 한가득일 줄이야. 아, 한 달은 의뢰 없이 놀아도 되겠는데요? 사무소 놓았네.
And that's how I beat Mirror Dungeon 6 hard using only Hanafuda Ishmael. She's very fun to use once you understand how to play into her gimmick, and it just so happens to be that said gimmick is quite powerful as well. She might not be the most anticipated identity in the game, but she certainly earns her spot here. Anyway, that's it from me. Like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Goodbye.